When you look at the stats worldwide, 95% of births are natural and normal and need no intervention. So I think the first thing is I wish more women just knew how natural and normal birth is. That doesn't mean it's not scary. That doesn't mean there won't be discomfort. But just to know that your body has been made to know what to do. Your baby's been made to know what to do. Now, granted, there is like a 5%, like sometimes birth is wild and
yes.
We cannot control that. And that's why every single time it's a faith walk. It's a portal of growth that you have to go through because there are no promises.
My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. On this podcast, I like to talk about simplifying your life so you can live out your priorities. I help you learn how to cook from scratch and decorate on a budget through this podcast and my courses, Simple Sourdough and the Simple Sewing series. I also help people reach their goals from home through my business course, YouTube Success Academy. I will leave links to these resources in the show notes and description box below. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that is becoming more and more relevant to me by the day as I am approaching our due date. And when this comes out, probably 5 or 6 weeks from now, we'll be having baby number 9 and planning a home birth like we've planned for the last 6 before this one. And so talking about birth and home birth and natural birth is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I'm joined today with Lana Sullivan of Girl Teach Me. She talks about birth on her channel. She also talks about other things that moms, especially young moms, can really learn from. But of all ages, there is something to learn when it comes to birth. And we were both talking about how we learn something each time that we have another baby. There's just so much to unpack here. I think you'll really enjoy this interview, whether you're about to have a baby or maybe you're just here for entertainment value. I think that there's a lot to learn. So join Lana and myself to talk about birth. Lana, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to talk about a topic that is close to me right now. I know you help women in this world all the time, whether you are pregnant or not. I feel like I'm kind of into it when it's coming up close, and then it's something that I don't think a ton about in between time. But there's always someone in the audience who is expecting, or maybe they're going to be, or they had a birth that they wish could have been different and they need education. So let's start first with introductions. Tell us about yourself and what you help people with and what you teach people.
Yeah. So my name is Lana. I am a homeschooling mom of 5, and I feel like I just fell into this natural birth world. I took a class when I was getting my master's. It was like a last minute elective, and it was maternal childhood nutrition. And basically in that class, she was like, just telling us all about raw milk and breastfeeding and natural birth. And so I've just, since that moment, it just sparked a love in my heart. And then just going through it myself, I feel like there's just so many women that need help with it. And so I've just fallen into helping women at church, helping women online get ready for birth. And so I started Girl Teach Me, just an extension of my heart to I used to coach college softball. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm homeschooling kids. So how can I still mentor other women? How can I still be a help? So that's when I started the YouTube channel and the blog Girl Teach Me. So it feels like I kind of get to online mentor beyond birth, motherhood.
Yes.
But birth is always something that continues to come up.
It does. It comes up. And you talk about other motherhood topics as a mom of 5. And I forget what your oldest kid is, but you've been at this a little while and there's things that you've learned. And then, you've added 3 kids and 4 kids and 5 kids. And so there's a lot of wisdom you've gained over the years.
Well, I mean, I feel like, right? Like you're about to have your 9th. Like we're just learning as we go and we're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
And people are like, how do you do 5? And you're like, well, I did 1 first. And then,
Yeah. So. Yep. It's just one at a time and more of the same. That's what I like. All the parts about newborn and postpartum and sleep training, or however you approach that, but nursing and then getting them to try to sleep at some point. It's tough when you go through it, but it's just more of that, not all at the same time. I think people always picture all of that at one time, but it's just all of that, but for a much longer phase of life and not as condensed, maybe.
And I've heard you say it on like Q&As, but people will ask you about a phase that you're not currently in. And it's like, you forget almost. And you're like, okay,
you do.
How did I do that again? Like, how did I ever get them, independent just a little bit out of my bed because we co-slept for so long. So yeah,
that's always really the challenge. People will ask me questions when I'm in a certain season, and then they'll ask me the same question when I'm not in a certain season. And it's not that I fully forget. Like, I know it was challenging, but when you're not in it doesn't feel like that big of a deal. That's another thing that I really try to remember, and sometimes I struggle with. People will have one, or they'll be pregnant with their second or about to add their third. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was like pretty easy. Like, it's just been a long time ago. And so I think that's what it is I just honestly, and we always say like old people forget, like they're like, oh, just wait till this because that part's easy.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that definitely are just, it's just hard when you're not in a certain phase. Like if you're not in your first trimester of pregnancy, like I get this all the time because recently I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, and I don't get super sick, but I'm not motivated. I'm tired. I feel nauseous. I don't throw up, but I feel really, nauseated the whole time. And it feels like a huge trial. But then afterwards I'm like, yeah, I think you just, you eat, you try not to get too hungry, and you just try to like clear your plate a little bit. But you forget just how hard it felt.
Yeah. I feel like the Lord is gracious to help us forget some of the extra hard parts, So.
Yeah. Yeah. You remember, like, I'm like, yeah, first trimester isn't fun. I don't like that, but I'm not in it to where I realize how life altering it is. And that's, I think, all the different phases of motherhood. And we're all on a different path, and we've been at this a certain number of years, and there's lots of wisdom I can learn even from young moms. They'll say things and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. That's something I forgot about a long time ago.
Absolutely. I even love being around college girls. Like, it's so invigorating to be around like younger women, because I'm like, oh, I forgot what it was like to be cramming for that test and be all stressed. And so I love being around younger women. I feel like, there's always something to learn. So absolutely, that's how I feel.
Yes. Okay. So with birth, this is something coming up soon for me. And I think people assume that when you've been through it a certain amount of times, you know exactly what to expect, exactly when to call the midwife. There's zero fear, you're not nervous because you know exactly how it's going to go, which isn't true because each birth is a different scenario. So what is one thing, just to start right off the bat here, that you wish more women knew about natural birth, and then particularly pain, because that's, I think, what most people think about?
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, there's so much. I'll keep it concise. I mean, when you look at the stats worldwide, 95% of births are natural and normal and need no intervention. So I think the first thing is, I wish more women just knew how natural and normal birth is. That doesn't mean it's not scary. That doesn't mean that there won't be discomfort. But just to know that your body has been made to know what to do. Your baby's been made to know what to do. Now, granted, there is like a 5%, like sometimes birth is wild, and
right. Yes.
You cannot control that. And that's why every single time it's a faith walk. It's a portal of growth that you have to go through, because there are no promises that just because it's gone well before, it'll go well again. I mean, that's how I felt before my fifth birth. Was I kind of had to like recommit my trust to the Lord, that like, I trust you through this birthing process. And so every time I have to like recommit that trust. But I wish more women knew that when you see birth as natural and normal, it changes things in your brain, and your brain decides 100% of the time whether you feel pain or not, because your brain is trying to make the decision. Okay, I'm feeling this sensation. Is this a working pain, kind of like working out, or is this a hurting pain, like an emergency? Should I admit more pain? Or should I like register this as like, this is working pain? And when you see that, when you see birth as like, my body is working hard to do what it knows how to do, I think it starts to change your whole experience of birth, if you feel like this is a natural, normal thing to go through.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I was someone on social media was really talking about home birth and how, all the classic things that people who maybe sometimes I feel like just aren't super educated on it will say. And I thought, okay, that's their opinion and that's valid. And then I realized that they've never experienced normal natural birth. And I'm like, well, then that would shape how you feel about it, because they've never even gone into labor without some kind of intervention. And so to them, this is not something that unfolds in a natural way, and they've never seen it unfold like that. And that is going to shape your perception of it being dangerous and out of the norm. And I think we get a lot of voices like that we don't qualify, that we hear them say something like that, like, oh, I could never, because, I know that birth is this, and this. And then you come to find out they've only ever experienced, whether it's with others that they've encountered, or if they work in, they work as a nurse or something like that. Their large majority of their experiences are always bad. There's always some kind of intervention that has to happen. Have you found that to be the case as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's, when I listen to birth stories from, let's just say, like some women at church, and they're hard birth stories because maybe there's been lots of interventions. Like, I have so much compassion for that because, right, they haven't seen how the other side of how it can be. And so, I'm patient with that. But, I had a dear friend, she was in her 20s, and she came to my fourth birth, and she was just so scared. But then afterwards, she was like, Lana, that was so incredible. And forevermore, that's going to change the way she sees birth. And I'm excited for her one day that she'll have at least registered that experience. And I think that we just don't have the same opportunity that maybe people had hundreds of years ago to be a part of a natural, normal birth in your family or in your village. And so, yeah, I think when all you've heard is from culture is scary stories, and you've heard that perpetuated at baby showers and with your family, it's like that negativity starts to affect you a little bit if you're not like vigilant to, kind of guard your heart and your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing, because without overcoming some of that fear, how are you ever going to experience it in that other way? And so it kind of further reinforces that it's always turns out like this. I had my first 2 babies in the hospital, and the first experience, I thought it was some kind of like special story, everything that happened with her. And then after talking to women for the next, 17 years now, I realized, oh, no, this is just the story. This is literally just how it goes. And I thought it was like my child almost died because, XYZ. And I don't know if you feel like that way, but I feel like I've heard the same exact story just hundreds of times.
Yes. And that's why it's so hard to hear, because you hear the story and you think, what I hear coming through with some of those stories, and I'm not saying this was with yours, but when I hear some of them, the way they're talking is that they had to be saved. Like the doctor swept in at the last minute, and
they literally told me that.
Yeah. So the doctor's the hero in the story.
Yeah.
And we're kind of the victim of birth. And, and that's the way I think a lot of women are told, is like, birth is just something that like you need to be saved from. And actually, I have found it to be an incredibly empowering experience of trusting the Lord more. And it's like this huge portal of growth that we don't need. I mean, like I said, there's that 5% of the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I always hold space for that, but
yeah, I feel like it'd be scary to be pregnant 200 years ago. I'm so glad that like, should something go wrong, we're good.
We're living in the best of both. Yeah,
we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have the right team. And like, that's one thing I try to stress is like, one of the first best decisions you can make is like get a really good team on board. And I know some people are really like pro free birth, but for me, I want to have, having really educated midwives. When I go sit down at their appointments, we talk for like an hour. I'm picking their brain. I'm learning all I can. And when they come to my birth, it's almost like being at your wedding, and you don't have to think about all the details. Like when you have, and so it's just nice to have that right person on board who's like coming in and they're thinking about all this stuff, so I can just focus on birth. So I don't know how I got on that, but like, I just feel like it's so important.
Well, it's really important, because what I see happen so often is someone who doesn't already have a lot of the knowledge on birth. And I do think if you did, you could almost be like, okay, I already know, like I can be my own advocate.
Yeah.
But if you're new, or, you've only had certain types of births, you will defer to the expert because they're the one that is telling you whether or not your child will be safe. And if you go against them, then you are deciding that you are smarter than the expert, which is a scary place to be that nobody wants to be in. So you have to choose your expert carefully, because when times get, in which honestly, they kind of always, there's almost always something, right? There's something that makes you a high risk candidate or something. And the expert will tell you XYZ. And if it's not from a natural perspective, why would you argue with them? Like, they're telling you from their vantage point, which is one that has seen a lot of babies be born, that you are making a risky decision. If you start from the beginning by choosing someone who you trust, to the point where if they do tell you that, great, let's go to the hospital. Mm-hmm. They have your best interest at heart, and they also are aligned with what your goals are for the birth.
100%. Like, if my midwife told me, Lana, I know that you want to be at home and I know you want to have it this way, but like, this is what I'm seeing, it would be game over for me, because I trust her that much. And I interviewed her and vetted her to the point where I know that she's, in my area, she has seen literally over 1,000 births. And I know she's so knowledgeable, and that's just really important to me. I don't think enough women, when they're pregnant, realize like it's a business in a way, and you got to go and interview that person and to get the job. Not just anybody gets the job just because they're the quote unquote expert. And because like I don't want to go through power moves when I'm trying to birth a baby. I don't want to have to,
or even leading up to it.
Yeah, I don't want to have
to happens
advocate.
Too. Is this whole time, we're good. Then all of a sudden you're 38 weeks and like, oh, but it's too late. Like, you're at this point, because that's what happened to me with my second. I was like, fine. I didn't like how that first one went. I mean, looking back, we did everything wrong. Like, everything. We just started it from the beginning wrong, and then we just continued to make the wrong decision the whole way. And so I know why it went the way that it did. So my second one, I'm like, not doing that. I'm going to have a natural birth in the hospital, which I was able to have a non-epidural birth in the hospital, but there wasn't much natural about it, because it was around 38 weeks that they told me, oh, they had a lot of things wrong. First, she was breech. Then she flipped, but then she had IUGR, which I know IUGR is an absolutely real thing. But looking back, and with her weight and with the way that my body measures, I always measure behind, even though the babies are always large. It wasn't. She was totally fine. And so, the induction, the whole thing. But at that point, like, I already was like really educated on birth. I read Ina May, I read the Bradley method, but still my doctor was like, yeah, you could do that, but she'll likely die. I'm like, well, then I guess we're going to go into
Oh man. It's like, and once somebody says that to you, like I've been a doula before, and I've watched the doctor pull the power move. Like, what's your number one goal for birth? And it's like, well, absolutely, I want a healthy baby. Well, we're going to have to go about this a different way, so it's just even the way. And I don't think that doctor's intent was bad. I just was like sitting back going, oh, these are power moves. And that's so hard to navigate in her time of need.
So another thing, and I don't know if doctors even believe it themselves when they say it, or if it's a power move. What is with doctors telling women when they're going to go into labor? I thought it was just a thing that happened a long time ago, and now people just know that, like, they can't actually predict that. No, it is still said, and I could be very in controversial waters right now, but I still see people saying, oh, well, my doctor said because I am this effaced and this dilated, it'll be long, or, several weeks, or it's going to be this week. And I'm just like, do they believe this? Or is it just...
It's so interesting. I mean, I'm sure, like, good midwives can see patterns, but I actually had a friend when I lived in Tennessee. She was an endocrinologist, and I was talking to her shortly before I had a baby. And she said, do you want to hear something fascinating? I was like, what? She was like, as much as we know about hormones, we still don't know fully the concoction of hormones that has to come together for a woman to go into labor. No. She's like, that's how much of a mystery.
It's a mystery.
It even is to an endocrinologist. Like, I was like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so maybe I'm come off a little strong on that, but it always frustrates me when I hear someone say that because they're already getting in their head. They're already like, well, I'm not going to have this baby for weeks. They said that to me with my first. And I was like, okay, well, so in my head, induction was on the table because I was 0 and not a face at 40 weeks. And with what I know now, doesn't tell you if you're in labor. That just tells you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it tells you.
I feel like for a lot of women, sometimes we struggle with control. And I feel like a lot of this towards the end is like a woman sometimes just grasping for control. She wants to know, she wants to plan. But I think one of the amazing things about birth is like, it's like a birthing month and you really don't know when it's coming. And like, if more women could just embrace the mystery that like God knows, the baby knows, and I'm going to roll with that a little bit. And I'm not going to try to like manipulate or control this process. Like, yes, I'm uncomfortable, but sometimes you have to get to the point where you're so uncomfortable that you would rather walk through birth than you would stay pregnant one more second. And so I just feel like if we could just like let go a little bit and stop trying to predict it. I don't know. I've just noticed that like this control thing.
Well, it's such an interesting thing because you can't predict it. And I think everybody wants there to be signs. Like my sister and I, we always talk about at the end of pregnancy every time, like, how are there not hard and fast signs? Because they're not. Like if you lose your mucus plug, it could be this afternoon or it could be 2 weeks from now. There's never, unless your water breaks. Okay, that's more of a sign, but I've never had water break before labor has begun. So it's not a sign that happens very often.
It never does that for me either.
If you're dilated, that means you could have a baby today or 2 weeks from now.
Right. Like your last one was prodromal labor, right? So, I mean, you were going through that for...
Yes. And so like you really like everybody even asks you every time when you're pregnant, any labor signs? Well, I don't know that there are any except labor. So the calendar, that's what I always say. Well, the calendar is my best labor sign. Like I'm due. So yes. But other than that, we want there to be, some kind of way that we can predict what's going to happen. And there's just a very wide range of opening parts of labor that you can't predict, and they don't necessarily tell you anything for sure. So I think it's an interesting thing to me that it almost like we still ask the doctor, like, when am I going to go into labor? As if they can, people that will do like this too. My baby's measuring big, so I'll probably have them early. And I'm like, no, that's nothing. Oh yeah.
Oh man. And the whole measuring bigs, sometimes they just get that really wrong. I had a friend when we lived in California and they were like, yeah, my husband's big. They said this baby's going to be big. About it. And so they induced her and the baby was barely 6 pounds. I mean, they really got it wrong, and she was induced for that very reason. I'm like, I don't know.
I guess I have so much context now because like we said earlier, forgetting things, you forget how serious something feels before you have more context. And so with my third, after my second was induced for IUGR, we took it real seriously. We went and got growth scans. I was measuring really small again. So he had to have several ultrasounds. He came out 8'7". And then all the ones after that, I just measure small. And now I know that because I've had so many kids that when they put the little tape on, it's like, I don't know why, but I just measure small. I don't know where they go, but it never lines up. And so I have a lot of context to where I just brush it off and don't take any of it seriously. But for that second and third, that was a really serious thing. We have IUGR. It's a thing that I have. I'm somehow broken. And obviously there are real things like that. And people lose babies from IUGR. But just the fear that I had going into that third pregnancy after thinking that with the second, context kind of gives me a little bit more to go off of.
I think it's so interesting too, because like if you had stopped after 3 babies, you think about those 3 experiences, that would be like what you think about birth.
That's so true.
You've gone on to have many more experiences. You think about like what you've learned for each one. I know I've got a nugget from every single birth that like, I learned that. I learned that. So
yes. Yeah, I have 2. And really with the context of the other 5 I've had, the first 3 I realized were all normal. Like all of the things that happened with them, I can see why they did. And I can see that nothing actually was wrong at all. And so really my perception of those three would have been like, okay, this is chaotic. Things go wrong. They don't grow right. But now after the other ones, I'm like, I really didn't ever have IUGR with any of them. And my first one only turned out how it did because of how we started everything and then continued to intervene throughout it. So context has even sort of redeemed those. And that happens with people with birth too. You could have a couple of bad experiences, and then there can be that one that changes how you view it all. When Luke and I were first married 17 years ago, we were on a super tight budget, and the only way that I could decorate my home and make it my own cozy space was by doing a lot of DIY and sewing. I've shared that for years on my YouTube channel, on this podcast, on my blog, and recently I put all of those resources together, all of the patterns, the tutorials, and then step-by-step instructions from getting a machine and threading it, learning about tension issues and the bobbin, all those things maybe over the years that have scared you away from sewing, into one course that I've called the Simple Sewing Series. If you've wanted to sew but have been intimidated by the process of getting started, or even if you're a more seasoned seamstress or sewist and you want to improve your skills, I really think that this will be a great resource for you. There's also a private community associated with it, so if you have sewing questions or you're excited to meet other people who are also getting started on their sewing journey, that's available with the course as well, and it's for a very affordable price. You can find my new course and all of the resources that go along with it over at bit.ly/simple sewing course. That's bit.ly/simple sewing course, all lowercase. That's where you can find more info and become a student. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about pain, because that's, I think, what people really want to know. What has helped the most for you after having 5 experiences with pain management in birth?
Yeah. So I think when I think about my births and how I've kind of learned from each one, I think my perception of, I know this isn't exactly what you asked me, but I'm going to tie it back into birth, is like the first time I really thought, and I had taken like babies, and I'm not knocking that, but like, I guess my perception was like I needed to stay as comfortable as the whole time in order to have a baby. And like, I'm not talking about like relaxing. I'm talking about like, I literally thought that there's not really going to ever be a time where I have to walk through a moment of discomfort. Like, I guess I was thinking to win at natural birth. This sounds crazy, but I just needed to stay super, super comfortable. So what that looked like is I was just like huddling in the birth tub. I was unwilling to get in any positions and I had a posterior baby, so I needed to help him turn and things like that. And so what I started to learn is that you have far less pain if you realize that your body is working hard to birth a baby. Your baby is working hard to be born. If you can just partner with your body and your baby and realize this is a working pain, very much like the last couple of miles of a marathon, like your legs are hurting, but you're probably not breaking bones or anything, And
right.
So just switching that in my mind to like, instead of like, I need to be as comfortable the whole time, to, okay, this is like going to be a really hard workout. This is going to be a challenge, but I'm doing this for a purpose. And when you birth, because you know that you're going to get that baby in your arms, like much like you're running a marathon because you know you're going to cross the finish line. You're not just running to keep running. When you keep it in the forefront of your mind, I'm working hard for my baby. I'm working hard I don't want to resist what's going on. I want to partner with my baby. I think that whatever discomfort you might be feeling, it's reworked in your brain as this is like a good and helpful thing, and I'm going to flow with it. Instead of like, I think my first and my second birth, I was running from the pain and I was resisting the working contractions that needed to take place. I was resisting. And I think of flowing allows your brain to flow more oxytocin, which is way more strong. It's stronger than morphine. It's stronger than and that's so kind that the Lord would give us that oxytocin, but you have to flow, and it's a love hormone. So you can't be tense. You can't be, tight. And like the Bradley method, like the relaxation is allowing you to just flow with it. And I think it would change a whole lot of women's entire birth experience if they would see it that way. That's a working pain, not a hurting pain.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. They show that in the Bradley method, or at least one of the books I have that teaches how to do the Bradley method. They show the diagram of the muscles, And that always helped me because I literally just picture what's happening. And it's not this scary foreign thing. I'm like literally just trying to pull these really strong muscles open to allow the baby out helps me realize it's not like leg breaking type of pain. This is not a pain that's bad and unnecessary. It literally has to happen.
Sure. Yeah. I think those visuals in that book are really, really helpful because once you understand, and I think this was a lot of things, once you gain that knowledge, once you prepare and you read books and, you do that prep work and you understand what's happening in birth, then you're like, oh, like, yeah, it's having to kind of work down so that my cervix can open. Like, this is good. I welcome this instead of like resisting it. And that was like just the swap I had. And that's when birth got far less painful, is when I stopped resisting what was happening.
So as a first-time mom, what were some of the ways that you prepped yourself? Or I guess what I should say is now, what would you recommend to prepare?
Yeah. Well, my midwife was great in California. She was really great. But what I didn't recognize or realize at that point is some midwives are the kind of midwives that'll be your doulas too, which means they're there for your emotional support too. And some midwives are just literally there to keep you safe and keep baby safe. And that's great too. What I had was a non-doula midwife. And so she kind of just left me alone. Like, I really could have benefited that first time from having my husband have more education, which I think the Bradley method's great for helping husbands learn how they can really coach and help their wives and support their wives. He did his best. He was there by my side. He didn't leave my side, but I just was not prepared. I took hypnobirthing, which was offered at the birth center, but it just made me feel like I needed to be like hypnotized through birth. And that was not helpful actually. And so I would say, like you said, Ina May, the Bradley method, like Susan McCutcheon's her book. Those are great books. But also like hearing a lot of really positive birth stories. Once you realize that women have been birthing for forever, and as you're birthing, thousands of women, millions of women around the world, they're birthing too. Like, it just starts to normalize it in your brain. But the first time, I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, some midwives literally won't take first time moms because they know it might take a while and they don't want to be there that long. They're not that patient. A lot of doctors are not that patient. And
first-time moms maybe don't know when to call either.
Yes, true.
True. I feel like sometimes I don't know when to call, to be honest with you.
True.
But they call too soon on average, right?
Yeah. So they sent me home. Like in LA, I drove 45 minutes to the birth center. I labored there, and then they sent me back home and told me to take some Tylenol PM. Like, you think just because, okay, you get excited. This thing's happening. Okay, so I need to go wherever I need to go. That is the kind of the benefit of home birth is you're not going anywhere. There's no hurry. You can continue to make bread or biscuits and do your thing. And then the midwife will come when she thinks that's like, I think the benefit of home birth. There's nowhere that you have to get to in a certain amount of time. So,
yes. Do you feel like on your first one, you weren't, well, I think maybe a lot of times you don't just don't know how intense, and I don't want to say painful because also I feel like I now have learned how to work with the intensity of it, but I think you are a little surprised at the intensity level that ends up happening to the point where when it first starts, you think this is probably what we're waiting for, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that I think birth educators, midwives, everybody tiptoes around the first time mom because you don't want to give them the perception. You don't want to scare them, but it is probably going to be the most intense thing you've ever walked through in your life. I mean, your pubic bones, everything has to move. Everything has to shift. It's going to be intense, but I don't think it's not going to be bad. I mean, it doesn't have to be bad. It's like it's a portal of growth. And I think, taking classes and reading books and getting the right team on board and maybe getting a doula if your husband, if it makes him nervous, like getting all the support, and then it just buckle up. It may take a while. It may. I know there's first time moms that doesn't take,
normally though.
Normally
I
it takes time.
Ever hear anybody that didn't
I was on and off in birth for 2 days. I mean, and never again. They say you never birth your first baby twice. Never again has it taken near that long.
Nope. I know. I told that to one of my sisters had her second baby in the last year, and I was like, it just always, okay, I shouldn't say always, but it almost always goes so much faster. And I don't really know exactly why that is, but it just does.
It just does. And I don't want to discourage first time moms. It's, yeah, like get a midwife who is willing to be there for the long haul, or at least not come until you really need them. And I don't know, it just might take a while, and that's not a bad thing. I think you need to hydrate, you need to rest as much as you can, because it might be a while, and not get too excited too fast. So,
yeah. And even for most first time moms, I know this isn't always the case. It's long, but the intense part of labor is about the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's just that first stage that really stretches out, that can get exhausting because you can't necessarily sleep through those contractions, but they're not all going to be like the thing you picture on TV where a woman's, just so upset and crazy and crying. That very intense part, at least in my experience, is always towards the end. I think there are probably some first time moms who are like, no, it happened to me. And I actually was in that phase for a really long time. But for the most part, what I hear is it's just a really long part of, like, even effacing can take contractions on your first.
Just can take a while. Yeah. And through that whole time, if you can be like, you know what, this may take a while, it may not, but I'm just going to buckle up and I'm going to stay hydrated. I'm going to rest as much as I can. And my body is working. Every single contraction is bringing the baby closer to me, even if it takes a little while. And, just not despairing. If your doula wants you to get in a certain position to help baby spin or move, like getting the right help, but then just knowing like the Lord knows when the baby's going to come. And I can just, again, like flowing with it. Like I think having electrolytes, I literally cannot imagine in certain situations in the hospital, like when they won't let you have water or things like that.
Yeah.
It would be like running a huge marathon and never having those drink stations or,
Right,
those snacks.
yeah.
Like no wonder your uterus is going to get tired because it's a muscle and it needs help. I just think about that sometimes.
Yes. So did you have all 5 of yours? You had all 5 of yours at home. Or no, you had one at the birthing center.
Yeah, I had one at the birthing center. So my husband was in physical therapy school. So home birth was a bit of a stretch for him the first time. He was like, Lana.
Yeah, it usually is. That's common.
Yeah.
That
but
people
once he
at
got
first
there,
can't like
yes,
wrap your brains around that. Yeah.
But when he got there, he realized essentially the birth center was like an Airbnb. Like it was like, and it had all the same equipment that she would have brought.
We always say it's a home birth you drive to. Like
yes,
that's
absolutely.
literally what it is.
Absolutely. I'm like, I could do the same thing, stay home, climb into my fresh bed and go right to sleep. Like,
yeah, I think it takes like one birth center birth to realize, oh wait, we just drove to a home birth. Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the step he needed to feel more comfortable. So
yes, so many people have, I agree. That's a really common thing because, well, also we live in a more rural area. And so we're actually really far from the hospital. So the one thing that's great about a birth center birth, at least the birth centers where we are, is yes, it's just a home birth you drive to, but it's closer to the hospital if there needs to be a transfer. And that's something you're thinking about, which, I think that's a lot of people's concern if they live an hour plus from the hospital, something they're thinking about. So.
Right. And those are questions that typically like concerned family members are going to ask, right? Is like, how close are you to the hospital? How quickly can you get there? And you don't blame them. But yeah, I definitely think it is a stretch sometimes for first time moms to do the home birth.
Yeah. And I will say just on that note, most of the things that happen during a birth that require a hospital transfer aren't actually that big of an emergency. Like they're usually something that it's like, yeah, I think we should go.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things, I don't want to deny that there are some things that could be quite emergent, but there are, I don't know what percent. Most of them are like a casual hospital transfer.
Sure. I talked to my midwife about this a fair amount because, like I said, she's a wealth of wisdom. Every time I go, I'm like, this is my chance to ask you, about every little situation. And, she told me about one time where they were trying to feel for where the baby was, position, things like that. And they're like, I think we're feeling a butt. Like we're trying to figure out what we're feeling. And, even in that moment, she got to talk with the husband and wife and be like, y'all think about it. You've got like 10 minutes to kind of like think through what you guys want to do. We can stay home, but these are the conditions, or transfer. You know what I mean? So it seems like a lot, not like, I'm not saying always, it sounds like for her, it's usually a conversation. It's usually pretty calm. And it's like, okay, this is what we need to do. And I think a good seasoned midwife will get you out of her care the moment she knows that this is no longer where you need to be. And that's kind of like what you're interviewing for at the beginning is, when you say go, I think you have good reason. You're not just giving up and wanting to go home on this birth because you're tired, so.
Right. Yeah. Yep. One of my sisters was supposed to have a home birth, and she did have to transfer. And it was definitely a conversation. It was not something that was an emergency. It was just, I think, and I trust her midwife, and I think it really was a good reason to switch or to transfer, but it wasn't this urgent thing. Like there are a few things like that could happen, like cord prolapse or certain prolapses where you got to go ASAP, but those are quite rare. What's more common is it's a discussion. And I mean, one thing to consider when you're far from the hospital is you're likely pretty far into labor. And so you have to drive an hour at that point, which is rough. But as far as the safety, that's usually not the issue with the hospital. Well, eventually it would be, but not quickly.
Sure. I mean, that's a lot of what I've heard too. I mean, that completely lines up. And, I transferred with a friend when she was in labor and kind of got to see how it was all handled. So that was like a good learning experience for me. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times it is it's a calm conversation, but I don't know. It's just that 5% of time that we just have to hold space for. And that's why birth is not like blanket statements. That's why, it's not one size fits all. And that's why sometimes it is nerve wracking and it's a faith walk. I mean, it's just the way it is, I think.
Yes. I've seen people who have multiple children, and then on the 8th or the 9th or the 10th, something happens that never happened before. And, that's when you do hold space for that, and you don't just, we're staying home no matter what. I think that's a good place to be open-minded about it.
I mean, it always keeps me humble too, like talking about birth. I feel like that was one of the things, like one reason I didn't want to share about birth is I didn't want to put myself out there like, oh, look at me, I've had 5 natural births and I take the credit for that. It's like, no, I mean, like I'm really grateful. I feel like the Lord aligned certain things, certain people to help me. And, even taking that class in my master's just opened my eyes to normalize birth. But it is one of those things we can't take all the credit for, and yet we can prepare as best we can. That's what we can control, right? Is our preparation, how many birth stories we listen to, limiting the negativity. Like we can do so much. And at the end of the day, birth is just wild. And that is the way it is. So it's just like an interesting thing you have to hold loosely.
Yeah. Well, we have a few audience questions that we can address. I'm looking through them to think, okay, which ones have we kind of already covered in a lot of ways? What are some of your favorite postpartum supplies for moms?
Okay. Have you ever used After Ease?
Yes, I used that last time. That's the one that's supposed to help with the cramps, right?
I don't know. What was your experience? Did you have a good experience with that?
Here's the thing. My after birth cramps, I don't know what this says about me, are so bad. Yeah. So it does not touch it because an herb's not going to touch what I'm experiencing after labor.
It's supposed to get worse the more you have, right? Like that's what they say, the more babies you have.
And it's something that I don't even think about because all you think about is the intensity of labor.
Yes.
And then you don't really think about the after. And I mean, again, I'm not going through it right now, but theoretically, I know it's literally worse because of how strong mine are. So yeah, I tried it. I'll probably try it again. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
but
I feel like it helped me a fair amount, but
did it?
Like I still like, though I'm not somebody who's popping Tylenol and ibuprofen all the time. Like those are times where I will take some.
I tried it. It just didn't even touch it.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
I was like, so why take it?
Yeah. I mean, my midwife was like, you should try this. I was like, yeah, I didn't have high hopes. It did help me. So maybe if somebody's like on their 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah.
But I have heard right, it's getting your uterus back in place. So it's doing something, but
And I do think mine shrinks down faster. Like I've seen a lot of people sharing online where they'll show themselves like a week after. And on my first and probably second, third, honestly, all the way through my sixth, I was wearing like regular jeans, like a week later. Now that's not the case. I hold on to the weight, but my uterus doesn't look like people look pregnant. It's common and normal to look pregnant a week later, 2 weeks later. I don't. And so I think my body's like, we're going to go back down right now, which I would take the belly. Trust me. It is awful. It is.
Oh man, your body's working overtime, just trying to get things back where they go.
Maybe that's it. I don't know, but
it's so hard. It's so hard because you don't have the expectation. I mean, like you said, you're anticipating, pushing the head out, all of those things,
all that,
and then you're like, what?
Labor's not done for like 3 straight days after.
Oh literally. Man, but I will say though, like natural birth, I mean, you can just bounce back so much quicker. Like I think about my friends who've had C-sections and things like that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, like that pain, of every time holding your baby and things like that. It's like, I know that we would totally take that kind of pain but.
Yes, it's absolutely true. Yeah. And I don't even dread it. Like I don't think like, oh, this is going to be so terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do know that it's strong. Those afterbirth cramps. Yeah. And like you said, they get worse with the more kids you have. So if you're not planning to have 9 children, maybe you won't have to worry about this.
Oh man. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm so excited for you, Lisa, though. Like every time it's like, I do have to trust the Lord in any way. It's a portal of growth every time and have to get my mind right every time. It's just, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's a whole discussion each time. I mean, I guess not really like for us, but as you're leading up to, you're like, oh boy, here we go. It's not like it's just, I don't know. In some ways, I think you think, oh, what's one more? But we notice, trust me, we notice.
Yeah. Yeah. When there's another baby. For me, I like lay it, I'm pregnant with my 6th, actually. I think I'm like 15 or 16 weeks.
Oh, okay. I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, for me, when I get kind of big and I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll have a thought, I have to get this baby out of me. And I'll just think,
get bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, as they get bigger. And I'll kind of have a moment of sheer panic. And then I have to talk myself through that. I have to kind of like take my thoughts captive. But every time I'll have a moment where I'm like, oh, I have to birth this baby,
towards the end of pregnancy, or do you feel like you already start to think of it? Because I never think of, like right now, it hasn't even crossed my mind. I'm 32 weeks, okay, but I think in like probably about 6 weeks from now, when I realize I'm going to go into labor, like soonish, I'll be like, oh, that's when it'll start to creep up on me.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, until that time, I'm enjoying the nesty energy I'm getting. I'm trying to get projects done around the house. I'm trying to prep for after baby comes. And then it's like when you get kind of tired and you start slowing down, you're like, oh, like it's when you feel like that there's nothing on the calendar after that.
Because you kind of planned. Yeah.
That it kind of gets real. Or if there's somebody else who's pregnant with me and I know they're probably going to go ahead of me and then they have their baby, I'm like, oh, it's game time.
Right.
Yes. I gotta get ready.
Those people do around you and you're like, okay. You're like, people always ask me, like getting close to the birth, like, are you all ready? I mean, I'm always like, I don't remember what you're supposed to do. Just right. Like just some newborn diapers. Is there anything else?
Right. Yeah.
All right, taking a quick break from this episode to tell you about my course, Simple Sourdough. So I've been educating on sourdough since 2016 on my YouTube channel and on my blog. More recently, I took those years of resources, recipes, how-to instructions, and put them all into one course so that it's all compiled together. You can get it in one place and learn from the very basics. So if you are brand new and you want to learn how to do sourdough the simple way, or even if you want to improve your baking skills, you should check out my course, Simple Sourdough. It's all for a very affordable price. I wanted to get this information into kitchens all across the world. You can learn more and become a student at bit.ly/simple sourdough course. bit.ly/simple sourdough course, all one word, all lowercase. What's your take on free birth? That was another question we had. And just it reminded me when I said, are you ready? Because with living kind of far from my midwife, I want to at least know that could happen, but it's not usually something I plan to do. What is your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think absolutely like being prepared for all the situations, right? That's only empowering to, instead of, oh gosh, I really hope they get here because, that I think that's going to make us a little anxious and worried too. So it's like, if you're in a situation where it might take a while for the midwife to come, or you might birth really quickly, like what's the harm in learning and just being prepared, right? And so, but as far as free birth, I mean, I can't speak for, everybody. I just know that I want to be out of the front. I don't want to be in the frontal cortex of my brain trying to make analytical decisions when I am trying to birth. I just want to have the freedom. And I get that it's kind of a luxury, but I just want to focus on doing what I'm doing. And I don't want to have to make decisions. I didn't have a wedding planner at my wedding. And it's like one of my greatest regrets at my wedding because I was analytically thinking through wedding details like moments before I'm walking down the aisle. And I don't want to feel that way when I'm in birth. I want to feel taken care of. I want to feel supported. I want to feel like somebody's looking out for all those warning signs and I can just be present in my body. That's what I want. Granted, I know that you have to pay for a midwife, and I know not every midwife is perfect. I've witnessed that. I've seen midwives that I'm like, I feel like you should have been, I don't know, you've disappointed me in a way, and so I think sometimes free birthers have had bad experiences with midwives and feel like somehow a midwife has sabotaged a birth. And sometimes that's why they want to do free birth. I mean, the way I feel is like I could probably squat down in my bathroom and probably have the baby and it would probably be fine. Like I tell myself that, but I still, when she walks through the door, there is a part of me that feels I'm talking about my midwife. I do feel like a little bit of like, oh, like it's okay. That's how I feel. And I like that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I like to have the midwife very hands off. I definitely don't want like a doula midwife. And I've actually never felt that way. So I know everybody's very, very different on that. So you have to take your personality and how you view things in account.
I don't want that now. I just want to be.
Okay,
but the first time I was like,
yeah, I don't even know. That was so long ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forget, but now, I'm like, I honestly just want you to walk in right when the baby's being born, just in case something happens. But like, I can literally grab the baby and do it all myself. And the way all my births have turned out, that would have been fine in hindsight. But, I do want somebody there to tell me if something is alarming. I don't want to think about that. So I agree. I think that's why I've chosen to always have a midwife as well.
Yeah. I get that it's a personal choice, and but I just think it needs to come from a place of like, have you done all your research? Do you feel really equipped and not like, I'm just going to let it go and I don't
hope
know.
for the best, because the people that I know that do free birth are quite knowledgeable and they know what to do if something arises. And so I think it's important to not just think, oh, nothing could ever happen. That would be naive.
Right.
Yeah.
And they probably have a kit of things. They probably have.
Oh, yes.
They're prepared.
They're their own midwife.
Yeah, they're prepared.
Yeah. Otherwise, to just hope everything, like nothing goes wrong, that would be.
Yeah, I feel like that's unwise in some way, because you're like I said, you're not doing what you can on the free will part of being prepared and just, I hope it'll just go okay. And I'm like, I don't know. I just would like to look back and be like, I did everything I could, and this is still how it went. So I can live with that.
Yes. One question we got is, and I get this a lot, do you include your kids in the birth process? And if so, how?
I never have until this last time. Time, it was like really my prayer that I would have my baby during the day. I've always had my babies like in the middle of the night.
Oh, it's the best. But you can't control it. So
yeah. I just was like,
I've had several during the day, and my sister's only had her labors overnight, and it is absolutely the way to do it, is to have your baby during the day.
It was so nice. Before, I've had grandparents come and get them so I could focus, and there was an element of like, I didn't want somebody to need me when I'm just trying to be totally relaxed and totally focused. I didn't want like a toddler being like, up in my face. That's just what I didn't want the first couple of times. But this time, I guess I had this vague hope in my heart that my girls, so I have 2 older boys, they're 10 and 9, almost 11 and 9. And then my girls are 7 and 5. So I guess it was like 18 months ago. But I wanted my girls to see that birth is normal. And so I kind of had a hope that maybe they would be around enough to just know that mama's working really hard, but mama's okay. And so it turned out that they were basically all there. I mean, I'm in a water, so like my boys couldn't, I have a bra on, so they can't really see anything that's going on under the water. They all wanted to be there, which I was really shocked about. Like my 4-year-old like had her hand on mine, and I think they were nervous, but I hope that they always remember that. I don't know if this next birth will get to be like that. You know, maybe I'll have a baby again at 2 a.m. and nobody.
Yeah, you just never
You
know.
never know.
And that's the thing too. I think people plan certain things and they really think about them. And then when it comes down to it, you know, you don't know what time it's going to be. Yeah.
I just kind of like held it loosely. Like, that would be nice to have a baby during the day. Oh, that would be kind of nice if they would know it's okay, you know, like, and I could see it on their faces, and I would just between contractions, like, I'm okay. Like, I'm just working really hard. Like, don't let it make you nervous. And, so I included them this last time. Who knows? They might be like,
what'll happen?
No, I'm good. I don't want to be, I had enough last time. Maybe that's the way they feel. I don't know, but
yeah. Yeah. I think my kids have none of them have actually been in the room. And it's not like I'm like, get out of here. I've never done that. And I've actually had babies during the day, several. And the last one I had around, I think 2 in the afternoon, and they're all around, like they're in and out of the house. It was summertime, so they were outside, inside. And so I think even though they didn't come in the room when I was actually having him, they're obviously going to know that I think birth's normal, and that I'm giving them that example because they know what I was in there doing.
Sure,
you know?
They know.
And then they just came in and there's a baby in there.
Yeah. What do your big girls what do they think? Because I know they're teenagers now, right? So
yeah, they're 16 and 14. They'll be close to 15 and 17. They never ask about coming in. That's just never been something they've remotely been interested in. So, but they also like, we'll talk about, you know, when I grow up and when I have kids, and I know they both think they're going to have home births. It's just what it is. Like, that's what they've always seen.
Sure.
So I know that they're not scared of birth, and they're just, I don't think that I'm also not a person who's overly interested in birth. I know a lot of people are really interested in birth, and I'm really not. To me, it's just home birth is the most practical way to do it. It makes the most sense when you look at the stats as far as just the outcomes. It makes the most sense from a family perspective. It's not something I'm like super excited about. Like my sister, she loves it. She watches birth stories. It doesn't matter if she's pregnant or not. Whereas I'm like, I kind of only care if I know the person really well. I'll want to hear your birth story. Or if I'm needing maybe some kind of encouragement because I'm about to have a baby. And so I think they probably have that same personality about it. They're just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But they also will likely have home births when that time comes, when they, you know, I always say there's no super easy way to get a baby out. Like, it's not like there's a no pain, no fuss, like just no problem way that requires you to give nothing. Even if you have an epidural, you have stuff afterwards that you have to deal with. So it's not like you're taking, like, home birth is this, because some people will say, oh, well, you don't get a cookie for that. You're not a hero. I'm like,
oh man,
I realize that you have to get the baby out somehow. And this one does make the most sense when you really look at all the angles. Yeah. And so that's, I think
that those sayings always kill me. Like, what are you trying to prove? Are you trying to prove you're superwoman?
Yeah,
you're like, no, I just don't want to have any interventions, because I think that I'm like, I don't want it to cascade into something even harder, even more painful. You know, like,
it's always, like when you choose this thing, then you end up with this on the other end of it. Like, if there was some easy way, but yet the outcomes at the end of it end up the same, I would do that.
Right. Choose your heart.
Right? Like, if there was no downfall of it, of course I would choose that. Like, sure, I'm not trying to like win an award for having to endure. It's a process that God made, and it has to happen. And we really haven't found any way as man to make it to where it's just nothing. yes, you can get an epidural and you don't feel certain parts of it, but then there's a lot of side effects from that too. So there's just no easy way out. That's what and not to say it's not something like I'm dreading or anything like that, but there's no way that's just, when people say that about, are you a hero? Do you want a cookie? They clearly think there's some like alternative way that there's no risk, there's no pain, and you're just choosing not to do it. I'm like, there's not.
Yeah, I could get on two soapboxes. One, like pain, like there is a whole, I did like a whole video, like pain-free birth, like, because I hear that, and I have had, people in my circle who they're aiming for the pain-free birth. And I feel like that's not really the right goal. I mean, great if you have a pain-free birth, if you have that experience, that's wonderful. But I think that if that's a goal that leads to sometimes to bad expectations and disappointment. And then also, there's this thing in womanhood where if somebody is trying to do something at an excellent level, why are we? There's a competitiveness sometimes with women where they're just not cheering for one another. They're not learning from one another, and they think just because you're trying to, I don't know, do something at an excellent level, it's saying something about them. And man, that grinds my gears so bad, because I'm like,
oh yes,
why are we all not trying to do the very best we can, the audience of one? And why does it have to say anything bad about I don't know, that
oh yeah, that's a whole
nother thing
with just every choice women make in general.
And but it comes out in birth, because when you share your birth story, somebody feels like their birth story is less than. It's like, absolutely not. That is zero what I'm saying here,
Oh yeah, it definitely comes out in birth. And that's where those, do you want a cookie, you're a hero type of mocking things come from, is you're putting it back on yourself and thinking, are you saying that I could have done that too? Or, and yeah, women definitely do this.
Yeah. It's kind of, man, it makes me sad too. Cause I'm like, no, I don't, I wish that wasn't your first thought. Cause that's not at all. I wish you could just hear it from a place of learning and not, that I would ever say anything less than. But yeah, that's a whole nother soapbox, Lisa.
It is. And I do think the kind of content you put out does help. I think most women are open to hearing it and open to hearing an alternative to maybe a very negative birth experience that they've either encountered or that they've heard about. And so tell the listeners about your YouTube channel, your blog, your Instagram, and what you help people with, and just point them in the direction of learning more if that's something that they're wanting to learn more about. Because we could talk forever about this.
Yeah, I could too. So Girl Teach Me is just basic. I narrowed down to new moms because I feel like I have the most to give to new moms. I still am trying to figure out, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. But for a new mom, I remember the pain of feeling like, there's so many opinions and I don't know what to do. And this is so hard. I cannot wait for my husband to get home and save me. I have such a heart for new moms because I think also our world doesn't exactly, pat moms on the back and say, way to go. They might say, you have a lot of education. Why are you wasting that on motherhood? And so I have just such a heart for new moms. So I try to think about a lot of pain points that new moms have and then speak to that in a way that hopefully empowers them and encourages them to step into the challenge of motherhood, because it is a challenge, but wow, is it important? It's so meaningful. So that's what I'm trying to do with my videos from a lot of different angles. It's like, okay, like one of them was like, we're moms, not martyrs. We don't need to constantly feel sorry for ourselves and all the things. So, just talking different things like that. So that's my YouTube channel. The blog is kind of a mix of things. I mean, I took your blogging course, I took your YouTube course. And so mixing in like some recipes I'm making, trying to learn food blogging and things like that. And yeah, so that's what the blog is. And then the birth thing is just honestly, like I knew I wanted to start a course. I know I'm a teacher at heart. So I kind of started with the thing that I feel like I knew the most about, which is birth. So I just started there with like Labor Without Fear. So that's kind of all that I'm doing with Girl Teach Me. It's a lot of YouTube. I don't even do Instagram anymore. I couldn't even show up there and homeschool.
You kind of can't do both. I learned that a long time ago. I thought theoretically, if you're doing something and it's valuable on YouTube, then you should just film it for both. It's no problem. But like my brain either is like, I'm thinking about YouTube, or or Instagram. And I think a lot of people are that way. I've seen a lot of Instagrammers quit on YouTube, and then I'm kind of a YouTuber that quits on Instagram. And it's just because you can't keep both going. You just cannot.
I mean, like I feel like you're an expert at delegating and getting the help you need. And maybe one day I can go back to Instagram if I have the help. But I'm like, right now I'm just focusing where I can give my time and efforts. I feel like I can help women the most through YouTube, through long form content.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way because you can really organize all of your content and you can demonstrate it in a real life way. Like, this is how this goes throughout the week or in my pregnancy or in my birth, and you can document it more long form. So I agree with you. I think
I'm not good at capturing
in a world of
my thoughts in a 30-second snippet and keep people's attention. Like,
well, you got to be so clever.
Yeah, you know? I'm like, I do not.
Can I just show you what I'm doing?
I don't have the bandwidth for that.
I feel like that at least with YouTube, the one part where you have to still kind of think of it in a clever way is the demonstration of like the title and the thumbnail. And it would just be so easy if I could just vlog a week and then just put it up there. But it's anytime you have to package it, which I feel like Instagram is all packaging. It's all packaging. And I'm too busy. You know, at least that's the story I tell in my own head, is like, I can't think about that many things. And so I think that's what I love about YouTube, even though you do have to still come up with a little tidy package for people to actually want to click on it, which is the one difficult part.
It is hard.
YouTube.
I have to text my friends who are in the YouTube world. I'm like, this or this, tell me, you know, I have to get second opinions sometimes. Yes. Like, definitely this. I'm like, okay, because I'm overthinking it at this point. But I know you put all that time into a video, and then if you don't have a good package, so.
Well, and I've heard people say, well, just don't worry about it. I'm like, you say that, but you're not the one who spent 8-10 hours on a video that if I don't package this right, all of that work is going to just go to waste.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's another rabbit trail, but totally true. Because people will accuse creators of having clickbait, because maybe they're putting the most sensational part of the video in the thumbnail. It's like, listen, you try spending this much time making a video and then nobody thinking they need to watch it. That's a little bit.
Yeah. Or this isn't exactly what I thought I was clicking on. I'm like, I tried to encapsulate it in the title. I tried,
it's hard,
but
you only get this little sentence here and then a little bit of text here. And that's what encourages people to click on this 20-minute video.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like it's my favorite way to learn is just watching. I mean, I love the audience on YouTube because they want to learn. And I feel like with Instagram, it's like maybe I just needed a numb out moment. I just needed like a second. And so I really appreciate the women who are watching the video and leaving the comments, because I'm like, you're a sponge. You want wisdom. You want to learn. And like, you're my kind of people. That's how I want to invest my time.
Yes. Okay. So over on Girl, Teach Me, and we'll leave links down in the description box or the show notes below to your course and your content. Thank you so much, Lana, for joining us.
Oh man, so fun, Lisa. It's so good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, as always, for listening to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. My husband, Luke, and I and our 8 kids work together side by side on our little homestead and use our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel to reach other homemakers, home cooks, and homesteaders with practical recipes and daily family life. For everyday sourdough recipes, make sure to check out our blog, farmhouseonboone.com. And to dig deeper, we do also offer a course called Simple Sourdough over at bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. That's all one word, bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. If you're looking to learn how we earn an income online, check out my YouTube course at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube course, all one word.